It must have been a long day today. This is a bedtime story channel, created to help you relax and unwind at the end of your day. I will read to you with care, so that you can drift off peacefully. I hope you'll keep this close by your bedside. This channel also faves more soothing stories to help you sleep. If you'd like to hear more before you doze off, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, have a good sleep. The Raccoon Dog and Hikoichi. Once upon a time, there was a very clever boy named Hikoichi. Behind his house, a raccoon dog lived in the hills, and it would prank travelers every day, delighting in its mischief. One evening, the raccoon dog transformed itself into a traveler and came to Hikoichi's house. "Good evening, may I rest here for a while?" it asked. When Hikoichi opened the door, he immediately suspected that this traveler was the raccoon dog from the mountain. However, he pretended not to notice and let it into the house. After a short while, the raccoon dog asked, "By the way, Hikoichi, is there anything you're afraid of?" Upon hearing this, Hikoichi decided to play a trick on the raccoon dog. Something I'm afraid of. Well, there is one thing. But it's embarrassing, so don't tell anyone. "What is it?" asked the raccoon dog. "Actually, I'm terribly afraid of sweet buns." "What? Sweet buns? The ones you eat?" "Ha ha ha. Afraid of sweet buns, you say? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." "Ah, stop. Just hearing the word sweet buns makes me tremble. I'm so scared." Seeing Hikoichi shiver in fear, the raccoon dog thought, "I've just discovered something great," and happily hurried back to the mountain. The next morning, when Hikoichi woke up, he found that freshly made sweet buns were piled high inside his house. "Mother, look! The foolish raccoon dog has sent us sweet buns. Come, let's eat them together." Hikoichi and his mother were overjoyed and began eating the sweet buns the raccoon dog had brought. Watching this, the raccoon dog realized it had been tricked and became furious. Curse it! A raccoon dog, outwitted by a human. I'll definitely get my revenge. That night, the raccoon dog gathered all the stones from around the village and threw them into Hikoichi's field. "Ha ha ha, now Hikoichi won't be able to work his field and will be in trouble," thought the raccoon dog smugly. The next morning, when Hikoichi and his mother came to work in the field, they were shocked to find it full of stones. "Oh no, our field!" cried his mother in surprise. However, Hikoichi immediately figured out that it was the work of the raccoon dog. He deliberately said loudly to his mother, "Mother, there's an old saying that spreading stones in a field brings a good harvest for 3 years. I don't know who did this, but it's something to be grateful for. If these had been horse dung instead of stones, now that would have been a real disaster." Hearing this from his hiding spot, the raccoon dog was frustrated. Drat! I didn't know about this 3 years of good harvest from stones. But if horse dung would be a disaster. That night, the raccoon dog secretly removed all the stones from Hikoichi's field and buried it with horse dung instead. As it turned out, the horse dung made excellent fertilizer, and by autumn, Hikoichi's field yielded an abundant and splendid crop. Drat! No matter what I do, I just can't beat Hikoichi. It's so frustrating, cried the raccoon dog as it looked upon the bountiful harvest. Hikoichi called out to the raccoon dog, "Hey, raccoon dog. I'll share some of the sweet potatoes we harvested from the field with you. After all, thanks to the fertilizer you provided, they grew wonderfully." "Oh, thank you," replied the raccoon dog. From that day on, the raccoon dog stopped its tricks and lived quietly in the hills behind the house. The Wolf's Gratitude. Once upon a time, there was a mother and her son who lived in a small house deep in the mountains. They were terribly poor, and both mother and son worked hard every single day. One night, the mother suddenly fell ill and was in great pain. The only doctor was in a village beyond the mountain, and the mountain was filled with wolves, making it too dangerous for anyone to go out after dark. However, the son, desperate to save his mother, set out into the night. "Please, wolves, don't appear tonight," he prayed to the gods as he hurried along the mountain path. But just as he feared, a wolf appeared. A large wolf with red glowing eyes stared at the boy. The son pleaded, "Wolf, please, just for tonight, spare me. My mother is suffering from a terrible illness, and I must bring back the doctor. I beg you, let me go." But the wolf continued to approach. "Please, I swear, once I've brought the doctor, I will return to be eaten." Crying, the boy begged, but the wolf only came closer and closer. When the wolf's breath touched his face, the boy shut his eyes, bracing himself to be eaten. But the wolf did not bite. "Could it be, it's letting me go?" thought the son, slowly opening his eyes. To his surprise, the wolf was still standing right in front of him. Yikes! The son shut his eyes again, but the wolf remained still. What's going on? Why isn't it attacking me? Does it want to say something? As the son cautiously watched the wolf, he noticed something strange. The wolf had its tongue hanging out, mouth wide open, and was bobbing its head up and down repeatedly. It seemed to be trying to communicate that something was stuck in its mouth. When the son peered inside the wolf's mouth, he saw something glinting in the back of its throat. "Oh, there's a bone stuck in there." The son reached into the wolf's throat and carefully pulled out the bone. The wolf bowed its head again and again in gratitude, then quietly walked away. The son managed to reach the doctor's house safely, but the doctor, terrified of wolves, refused to step outside. the son took the medicine and hurried back along the mountain path. But this time, 4 or 5 dozen wolves surrounded him, baring their sharp fangs. "Oh no! This is the end. Mother, I'm sorry." Just as the son had resigned himself to his fate, a large wolf suddenly leaped in and barked fiercely at the pack. The wolves that had encircled the son scattered and disappeared. The large wolf was none other than the one the son had helped by removing the bone, the leader of the wolves. Protected by the wolf chief, the son made it home safely. The next morning, when the son stepped outside, he found a mountain of game, wild boars, rabbits, pheasants, and more, piled in front of the house. The son took the bounty down to the village and sold it, earning a large sum of money. His mother also recovered from her illness, and from then on, they lived happily together. Celestial Maiden Wife. Once upon a time, there lived a young woodcutter. One day, on his way to work, he came across a butterfly struggling, caught in a spider's web. "Oh dear, how pitiful," he said as he brushed away the web, setting the butterfly free. A little further along, the woodcutter found a fox trapped in a snare. "Oh dear, how pitiful," he said, releasing the fox from the trap and saving it. After walking a bit more, he saw a pheasant entangled in some vines, struggling to get free. "Oh dear, how pitiful," he said, cutting the vines with his hatchet and freeing the pheasant. Later that day, as noon approached, the woodcutter went to a spring to fetch water. There, he saw 3 celestial maidens bathing in the water. The woodcutter, captivated by their beauty, secretly took one of the feathered robes they had laid on the ground and hid it among the trees. When the 3 maidens finished bathing, they returned to the shore. But one of them could not find her feathered robe, which was necessary to return to the heavens. The other 2 maidens, unable to help, sorrowfully returned to the sky, leaving their companion behind. The maiden left behind began to cry softly. Seeing the celestial maiden crying, the woodcutter stepped out from his hiding place and comforted her, then took her back to his home. He hid her feathered robe in the ceiling of the house. Years passed, and the 2 became husband and wife. But one day, when the woodcutter returned from the mountains, the celestial maiden was nowhere to be found. Her feathered robe, once hidden in the ceiling, was also gone. In the middle of the room, there was a letter and 2 beans. The letter said, "My Father from the heavens has come to take me back. If you wish to see me again, plant these beans in the garden." The woodcutter planted the beans, and they grew quickly. After a month, the bean stalks had reached all the way to the sky. "Wait for me, I'm coming for you," the woodcutter exclaimed as he climbed the tall beanstalks, determined to reunite with his wife. He finally reached the heavens, but the sky was vast, and he quickly lost his way. Just then, a pheasant flew down and guided the woodcutter to the celestial maiden's home. However, before he could meet her, her father appeared and said, "If you wish to see my daughter, gather all of these golden sesame seeds by tomorrow." The father scattered the golden sesame seeds from the heavens down to the earth. It seemed impossible to collect them all. The woodcutter set out to try, but he didn't know what to do. Just then, the fox he had saved appeared. The fox commanded all the animals of the forest to help, and they gathered every last golden sesame seed for the woodcutter. When the woodcutter presented the seeds, the celestial maiden's father reluctantly brought out 3 identical daughters and said, "Now choose the one you lived with on earth. If you choose incorrectly, I will throw you down from the heavens." The woodcutter was confused, as all 3 looked exactly alike. But just then, a butterfly fluttered down and landed on the shoulder of the middle daughter. "I understand. My wife is the one in the middle," he said. Having correctly identified his wife, the woodcutter and the celestial maiden were reunited and lived happily ever after.